Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, man. I'm excited. It's a fun video for me to do, and it's a video series that we do every month, breaking down 3 different lakes, where to start. Sponsored by Optima Batteries, and it just really gets me to thinking about places when I go to these lakes. You know, where to drop the trolling motor down, where to put your kayak in, where to make that first cast with those baits. So we're gonna break it down for you. We've got 3 really good lakes this week. You guys stay tuned. All right, so a really cool thing about this series is I get these lakes from the comments that you guys leave. And just by leaving those comments, you also are entered in a chance to win an Optima battery. And just so you know, guys, there's a lot of spammers out there. The only way you will ever win an Optima battery is I'm gonna state your name at the end of each video. Each month, I state your name. That's the battery winner. I'm not gonna comment. I'm not gonna tell you you win. I'm not gonna do any of that stuff, as a response. So just know, if I state your name at the end of this, you're the winner. If I don't state your name, I'm sorry, you're not the winner. But let's talk about April. April is a cool month. It's like we are in the middle of the best season ever for bass fishing, because it's happening, and it's happening really quick, really all across the country. I think everybody's thawed out up north. You're getting to go fishing. Obviously, you can use this video series, throughout the country. Further south, you're going to be more of a May or June video from last year. Further north, right now in April, you might be like a March or February video, still a pre-spawn video. But I've got 3 lakes here that we're going to talk about, and it's all from your comments. The first one that we're going to do is the mighty Guntersville Lake. I forgot who left the comment, but man, it's a phenomenal lake. We're going to do Baden Lake in North Carolina, and then I thought we'd do Clark's Hill. I wanted to mix in a herring spawn, those kinds of things at Clark's Hill there in Georgia. So 3 really interesting lakes, 3 big lakes, kind of 3 different lakes. So let's start off with Lake Guntersville. April. It's wide open. You've got fish that have already spawned. You've got fish that are spawning. And you still got fish that are coming in. It's just a fact. In the month of April on Guntersville, those things are happening. I would say the vast majority of the bass are going to spawn that first week, that second week of April. By the end of April, you're going to have post-spawn fish, obviously out deep, and they'll start really ganging up. The other thing I want you to think about on all these lakes that you've got to start looking for is the shad spawn or the herring spawn. That tends to start to happening. I've seen it at 66-degree water, but it normally happens at 68 degrees to 72. When you hit that magic window of that water temperature, a bait fish spawn could be happening at your lake. And how do you find that? You're looking for birds. If you happen to see a lot of birds standing on a bank, that's a telltale sign. If you're reeling in your spinner bait or your slobber knocker and you got bait fish hitting it, that's another telltale sign. So just always keep that in the back of your mind. And a couple of real quick things about a shad spawn. I did a YouTube video a while back. I'll try to put a link here for that shad spawn, just really describing it and baits just for it. But a couple things about it. It's early in the morning. It lasts longer when it's cloudy. The shad spawn at night, and it lingers a little bit in the morning. The herring, they spawn during the day. Sunny days are better. It's kind of opposite. Shad, dark conditions, herring, sunny, bright conditions. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's get to Guntersville. Let's break it down here. Guntersville, for you guys who don't know, it's on the Tennessee River. Lots of current goes through this lake, and very, very, very popular destination. So when you think about all that current, those main river fish are going to be the last to spawn a lot of times. So if you're wanting to go there and you're wanting to catch big spawning bass or think about spawning fish, think about the main river. Think about those areas. Like for me, one of them that really pops into my head, for this time of the year, I've got my C-map right here. Here's the main river. You've got current. This is out of current, this is out of current. This is Seabold Creek, really popular. A lot of fish would have spawned here, the last week of March, the 3rd week of March. There'll still be fish spawning in the back of Seabold. Let's just talk about Seabold. I wouldn't even want to talk about it, but when you look at that creek, just look how big all this light blue is potential for spawning habitat, or this dark blue, you know, that shallow water flats. Whenever I'm picking a place to start on any lake in the month of April, the bigger the flats, the more bass, the more opportunity you have to catch fish. And this Seabold Creek is a prime example. It's going to be dynamite from March, April, all the way through May. This place floods with spawning fish. And like, you know, if you were to zoom in on it just a little bit, you know, and you look at these flats coming out here, all down through here, you know, all this area right here, this area here, those are all spawning flats. They will spawn all over that the month of April. But all right, back to what I'm trying to say. That's a place to start. But another one that really comes to mind here, like this is the mouth of Browns. Okay, so now we were out of the current here. Fish would have spawned here earlier in the year. And I'm not gonna say the earliest. I could have showed you some stuff way up the river that they would have spawned in earlier. But here, we're kind of in the current, like the mouth of Browns. You see these humps? Like when I think of April, or even getting into May and wanting to find those last spawners, I look for these main lake humps like this. Like, you know, fish spawn on that one, they spawn on that one, on that one, on that one. You know, if you were to zoom out a little bit, some other areas, see how this is main lake? Fish spawn right there, and that's in the main river current, so that's gonna be cooler water a lot of times. You know, that's what I look for. Now, the other thing that'll happen on these kind of spots also, especially if you got grass, is a shad spawn could be going on. You could actually have fish spawning out there, and you could have a shad spawn going on places like that. But to me, like this is a prime area to start in April. These offshore humps, you know, catching fish that are still coming up, new fish coming in to spawn, to where these fish back behind this bridge, much more protected. These fish back here are gonna be a lot further along in the month of April. So we've mentioned a couple flats. We mentioned Seabold, we mentioned these flats out off Browns, you know, all reds, this area in here, huge spawning flat, like lots of spawning goes on in here. Like a great one, a super great one, is down this side right here. You've got an old road. You can kind of see it on CMAP. That's going to be a harder bottom. That's going to be a prime spawning area. If you want to go drop your trolling motor, you're going to your first trip ever to Guntersville, this right-hand bank has an old road bed that runs all the way down through it. It actually comes right through here. It's not marked on this map, but would be a great place to start. Throwing you a Texas rig general, you know, a drop shot weight, a Carolina rig, you know, even a vibrating jig. You know, those fish are going to spawn on that all month long. Great place to start. So there's some places to start for spawning fish. Now, let's talk a little bit about, as the month progresses, shad spawn. You know, that's another thing towards the end of April I want you to think about. And that's a lot of times for me, you know, yes, they'll spawn on grass. We mentioned that here on these flats. But you know, all across the country, like one of my favorites is marinas. Like you look at this marina right here, man, if you got that 68 to 72 degree water, that marina right there is prime. And when I'm looking for a marina to start fishing my shad spawn, this one right here is the best example I could give you. And the reason is, so if you picture fish coming back into here to spawn, they're migrating out, it's at the mouth of a spawning pocket. That's what I look for in a shad spawn, is a marina at the mouth of a big, you know, spawning flat. You know, the fish spawn back here, they're migrating back out to the current, out in the main river channel. They can stop off there and get them a really easy bite for, you know, a week's window when that shad spawn's going on. It's just, I love fishing marinas. That would be a great place to start, you know, if it was a little bit later in the year and you had that water temperature. Okay, last, you cannot talk about Guntersville without talking about bridges. And not just Guntersville, but any lake you go to across the country, we do a lot of where to starts, and I point out areas of where to start. But we've mentioned it here a couple times, you know, fish migrating back here to spawn, migrating back out to the river. Well, these bridge openings, like this one here at the mouth of Spring Creek, this one here at the mouth of Browns, phenomenal places to start. All day long, morning, afternoon, evening, fish are all the time going through there. Why? Well, it's a constriction point. It's an area where you know, anytime the wind's blowing, you know, if it blows from the north to the south, water's going to be flushing in and out of that bridge all day long because it's such a narrow opening with all that big body of water. If they're pulling water, it's just all the time going to have current, no matter what direction the wind's blowing out of. It's just an easy area for bass to ambush their prey. It's just a great place to start anywhere you are in your part of the country, and especially right here on Guntersville Lake. So that's the tip of the iceberg for Guntersville, guys, but I promise you those are some really, really good areas. Those are areas that if I was going there in April that I would check out. Now, I've got a tournament there in May. I'm actually here at a tournament right now. This is Murray Lake right here behind me. It's one of my off days. We're fishing here at the 1st of April. You know, lots of things going on here, but I will be going to Guntersville in May. So, you know, things will be a little bit further along when I get there in May, but I'm looking forward to it and excited about going. Okay, so let's go to the next lake, and that would be, let's do Clark's Hill and then we'll do Baden. So when I zoom out here on Google Earth, Clark's Hill over by Augusta, Georgia. Man, this is a neat lake, super, super cool lake. This is a huge lake on the Georgia-South Carolina border that has herring in it. And that is one thing that's different than the rest of the part of the world. You know, when you have shad feeding bass, they act completely different than bass that feed on herring. I mean, it's just like, I've never done drugs, but I you know, you always hear people addicted to crack or something. These bass, like that's their crack. Like they will seek out those herring over everything else. They'll swim past 10 shad to get to that one herring, I promise you. They just go crazy on them. And it's a different fish. So the month of April at Clark's Hill, that herring spawn is going to be starting. It's going to be going on, and that's something you can run all day long. The conditions that you want to like, let's say, well, Edwin, I'm going down there. What do I need? You need upper 60s, low 70s water temperature. Sunshiny days are better, and a little bit of breeze is always better. And then you need shallow, flat points, or you need saddles, cut-throughs. I'm going to show you a few places where to start to look for a herring spawn here on Clark's Hill. So you got the dam right here. You zoom in. Let's zoom in. Like, I am going to look for a saddle. Like right here is, that's not a saddle there. It's close to one, but it's not. So you've got a saddle right here. And what happens with these saddles is, when that wind's blowing, it's like, you know, the wind's coming, it's blowing the bait, and then they've got to go up and over this saddle to get through right here. Let's see if we can find just a low water photo to see what it looks like right there. Okay, so here's a prime example, a lower water photo. You actually see that it's got a road bed over there. So, you know, that water's got to go. The wind's blowing here, let's say from the southwest. That water's got to blow right over this saddle, right over the top of that road. To me, like, that is a prime example of a place to start when you're looking for that herring spawn. Let's see if we can find something else that would look for it. I know there's one of them around the corner that can be really good. I think it's right here. You know, this is a good example. So another example of a good herring spawn. See how this point runs way out? That's going to be a flat point. When the water's full, you know, it's going to be about 2 or 3 foot deep right over the top of that flat point. You know, if wind's blowing in there, it makes it all that much better. You know, another spot, like, let's just see. Oh, right here. Look at this saddle right here. You've got a really narrow saddle. You got deep water on this side, deep water on this side. Wind's going to just pipe through that either direction. That's a great herring spawn spot. I like those herring spawn spots that are really at the mouth of spawning pockets. Like if you were to look here, let me keep looking here. So when you zoom in, like let's say this is a spawning pocket right here, you know, like this splitter point in the middle. That would be a good example of a good herring spawn spot. You know, something where a bass didn't have to travel very far. If he spawned back in here and like instantly the herring spawn's happening, he could go right there and eat him some herring, or he could go on this flat point and eat him some herring. This little hump right there, you know, that would be a good spot that he could eat some herring. You know, that's the stuff I look for, you know, those flatter points, if you have a deep water close by. And I think you use those herring spots you move around with the water temperature, and you move around as they get closer to the main lake. A lot of times the warmer water is going to be in those flatter, bigger creeks towards the back, and then it'll progress out more towards the main lake. Keep some of that stuff in mind, as you go out the following weekend. Well, man, maybe they just moved out more to the main point of that big creek, or more out towards the main lake. Anytime you got a big river bend, or something like that, those can really enhance those spots. Now, with that said, there's still going to be a lot of bass spawning on Clark's Hill. So, in March, I feel like, man, they spawned way back up here in these creeks, way back in here. Now, I think in the month of April, they're actually going to spawn on a lot of those same points that those herring are spawning on, like these main lake points, these main lake pockets, these little bitty pockets. Like look at this one. You look right here at this one, it's really close to deep water, thus cooler water, that gets turned around, but yet that little pocket right there is super protected. It's protected from north, from east, it's protected from all directions, so those fish can really set up in there and spawn really, really well. And it's got a saddle right there next to it. I look for that kind of stuff, as the month progresses, that those main lake fish will pull into those small little short pockets to spawn. The last thing that I think of, if you are really wanting to extend the spawn, don't ever overlook where water comes into a body of water. Like Clark's Hill right here, the next lake above it, it's way on up here, but you got to think that water's coming out of the bottom of this lake. That's going to be a lot colder. So now these fish up in this river portion, they're going to be like your March fish, because this water temperature up here is going to still be in the upper 50s or low 60s, where the lower lake's going to be in the upper 60s, low 70s. So you can also just follow your spawn, follow your herring spawn, a lot of times the exact opposite of what you think, by running up those lakes when you have a lake right above it where the water comes out from the bottom of a dam. So always keep that in mind also. So if I was running up here trying to find some spawning fish, just something to look for, just any one of these little pockets, like close to where this water's coming out, these little pockets right here in this outside bend, this bank right here, this point right here where that you can see that river bends right around that. That's the stuff that I would look for. These main points, if they're setting up pre-spawn out there on that, or if they're spawning, they're going to be right back in these pockets in these little more protected areas. So there's some areas on Clark's Hill. Let's move over to Baden Lake, North Carolina. I actually have just a little bit of experience on Baden. I fished a cup event there. Let's see if I can find it. Looky there, I found it in a hurry on my C-map. Kind of a cool lake. Pretty deep, pretty steep. It's got a really neat riprap feature, like an old railroad that went through it. Again, it's got another lake that feeds it, so you got some water moving through it, Tuckertown Reservoir. Cool lake. What I remember about it was it had some really, really big fish in it. All right, so when we look at Baden Lake, it's a really cool lake. It's got a lot of shoreline for no bigger than it is. Here's the dam down here. Here's the upper end of it right here. The month of April, I have to think, again, it's just going to be like these other lakes that we're talking about. Spawning's going to be going on. There's going to be a shad spawn starting once that water temperature hits that certain temperature. So right off the bat, when I look at the map and I look at this outside bend, I look at all these flats that houses fish. Those fish can summer, they can winter out here on this bend, on these points, these extended humps and points. Thus, there's lots of darker blue area, spawning habitat, which in my mind holds more bass. So I really like how some of this lays in here. And then if you were to take it a step further, like this is a little nugget that man, it is what it is. I don't know what else to tell you. If you got a golf course next to your lake, that's a dang good pocket. And here's why. Like when you look at the back of this pocket right here, so I'm zooming in on this pocket right here, really cool spawning pocket. You zoom in, you see grass back here, you see lots of stuff growing. It just, in my mind, they put a lot of fertilizer on golf courses. And a lot of that washes into the lake, thus making that section of the lake more nutrient rich. one for the shad, for the bluegill, more stuff in the water to eat, more grass to grow in the water. I always find around golf courses, you start there. Like, it's a spot you want to go fish. The back of this pocket looks really, really good for me. You know, getting back there, throwing a frog, throwing my slobber knocker, swimming that jig, buzz bait. You know, it just is a cool pocket to fish. Then as the month progresses, man, I've got a dock right here at the mouth of that thing that those shad could spawn on. You know, I've done shad spawn videos. I love docks at the mouths of spawning pockets. I saw another marina. Let me find it right here real quick that was at the mouth of a look at this one here. I've got another marina, you know, just out towards the mouth of a spawning pocket. You got fish that spawn back here, all back in here. Man, they can stop off and those shad spawning at that marina. So one other thing about that shad spawn, I don't care if it's 50 foot, 100 foot, or 10 foot underneath that dock. It doesn't matter. I'm fishing right underneath that foam. I'm throwing that spinnerbait. I'm swimming that jig, throwing that slobber knocker in and around all those slips. Don't hit anybody's boat, but it doesn't matter. Depth doesn't matter. You know, a lot of times the deeper the better. It just doesn't matter. But I like that spot right there. So then one other spot to think about, like, you know, as the month progresses, that I would look at are these main lake steeper banks. So like, you had all these fish that spawned in these pockets. Man, I feel like they slide right around here, and they will be on this type of bank right here that's rock. Like this bank right here, when you zoom really close in on it, I don't know if you can see it on the video, but it's a really rocky, steep bank. You look here on my C-map, there's no contour lines, zero. Like, they spawned right back here, but yet they pull to this point. They'll summer right here on this point, but that shad spawn, man, that's the stuff. Those tighter banks, those bluffs almost, those really tight banks, that shad spawn can go on. You know, it could be right there. It could be happening on that bank right there, you know, fish that spawned right out there. That's the kind of stuff I look for, like on a shad spawn, those steeper banks, those bluff banks right outside of a spawning pocket. So those are some areas that I really like. I like the back of that creek right there, just looking at it for the first time. You got a hump right there, kind of a cool looking spot. Really, really neat lake, a really fertile lake. It's got some really good fish in it. You can't go wrong fishing boat docks, guys. Just any time of any month out of the year, but the month of April, boat docks, you know, especially this lake's not completely just got thousands of them. It's got some boat docks, but it's not like, you know, some lakes you go to, they're just everywhere. And, you know, like I could pick a flatter pocket like this one right here, or this one, you know, and I could fish these ones in the back, and I could fish these ones out on a point. You know, that to me looks really, really good, because it's got some character. It's a flatter point. Fish could spawn behind those boat docks. You know, a lot of times I think on boat docks, fish live on that boat dock. There's a difference between a resident fish and a fish that migrates. You know, ones that are migrating in and out. There's two different types. There just truly is. And stuff like this, you know, these are good docks that are going to hold bass year round. I like that point right there as a place to start also. So, guys, that's my where to start. That's 3 lakes. That's some really quick tips on where to start. Yeah, those may not be the 3 lakes you fish, but I promise you, I feel like there's some stuff in there that'll help you on your lake, you know, or if you're traveling to a lake like one of these. So let's get off to this month's winner. I have got it right here. Give me a second to find it. All right. Larry Page, man, thanks so much for the nice comment. You left me a super nice comment. I'll leave it here at the bottom of the screen. Your address is LP72905. That's your address. You actually have a picture of me and you, and man, you're retired from the military. I really appreciate that, Larry. Good fella. Thank you for watching my videos. Thank you for commenting. Larry, send me your email address through my website. I'm going to get you a certificate for a brand new Optima battery to put in your boat, put in your car, however you want to use it. You're going to get a certificate coming to you. So you're the only winner this month. I don't want to get a lot of texts saying, man, I got contacted. Man, I can't help the spammers. I just can't. I don't know what else to do about it other than quit giving stuff away, but I like giving stuff away. So, guys, I hope this stuff helps you. I hope you have a great fishing season in the month of April. Don't forget to give me that thumbs up, that like if you don't mind. Leave me a comment, and I might pick you as a winner next month when we do Where to Start in May. all over again, sponsored by Optima Battery. So you guys, good fishing. Have a great month.